Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to 30-Minute Mondays. Today, I'm really excited to talk with you about model-driven apps. So today we're diving in the Power Apps and the Dynamics 365 world. So those of you who are currently using Dynamics 365 are, believe it or not, using a Power App. Everything is built on Power Apps today in Dynamics 365. And I'm going to go through and just show you how to get started with model-driven apps. Before I do that, I do want to talk briefly about some security considerations you might want to take into account when you're building a model-driven app. So rule number one is you need the right security levels and the right permissions within Dynamics 365 to build a Power App, to build a model-driven app. Which is understandable. So you need to be a system administrator or system customizer, or have the privileges and permissions you need within another security role to create model-driven apps. So I'm really excited. We're going to talk a lot about some fun stuff here. I think model-driven apps are one of the most powerful tools that you have in your user adoption toolkit. So this has the ability to really streamline the user experience for your different user groups. And I suggest creating model-driven apps, thinking about your user groups. So out of the box, you're going to have some the Sales Hub or the Service Hub, depending on what your users are you licensed for and how they're using Dynamics 365 today. Some of the things that you can do with model-driven apps to streamline and just show them the different components that they need to see used to only be able to be achieved by using custom code. So no more do you need custom code to accomplish this. It's really exciting. Again, for anyone who's a system administrator, you can build your own and streamline an app for somebody. So where do we go to get started? I'm going to demo this for online customers by using make.powerapps.com, which you can see we're at here. If you are using on-premise or an older version of Dynamics 365, you can use your classic solution designer here. It's done the same way, and both are going to take you into the app designer interface, which is actually powered by Power Apps. So if you're on-premise or on a slightly older version that still supports model-driven apps, you can still build them just using your classic solution designer. So here we are, make.powerapps.com. The first thing you want to make sure is that you're putting your app in a solution file. So I'm always a big stickler on solution management best practices. So every time we have a meeting and I'm going to demo something in Dynamics 365 or Power Apps or Automate, I am almost always going to start with a solution file. So here's our solution file. I'm going to use Amazingly Fantastic Solution for Demos, which already has a bunch of components in here. So you can see we've got a lot of entities, we've got some web resources, and we also already have a model-driven app within our solution file. Now, this is our out-of-the-box Sales Hub app. This comes when you generate a Dynamics 365 instance. And again, that might be the Service Hub. It might be a different hub based on who your users are and what your primary purpose is for Dynamics. So my Sales Hub is here. It gives me access to all of these great areas. So I can come in here and navigate on this panel on the left and go through different areas within my Sales Hub. But this might still be a little bit overwhelming to some of my users. So when I open up an area and I click on one of the views, you'll see I've got a lot of system views here. I've got everything that app came with. Same with contacts and all the different areas. Now, the great thing you can do with model-driven apps, one of my favorite things to do is streamline which views are going to show up here. So instead of showing my users all maybe 10, 15, maybe more system views that you might have created to power some dashboards or reports, I can just show them the ones that they need in order to do their job, which is a pretty cool way. I'm really big on user adoption and making things easy for your end users. So we're going to go through and we are going to kind of build our own. So now hopefully you have a brief idea of what a model-driven app can look like in Dynamics 365. You're using it today, even if you didn't know it. And we're going to build a new one, which is really cool. So the first thing we're going to do is click New at the top in make.powerapps.com, select App, and then select Model-Driven App. In our classic solution designer, let me see if I still got my app up. No. Let me open this up. So while I'm waiting for Power Apps to load, I'll just show you this in case any of you who are watching this are on-premise customers. Again, you would always start with your solution file. So if you don't already have one, you can add a new one. And from here, it's the same thing, new, and then you can scroll down and model-driven app is here. So that's the exact same thing as coming in here and selecting a new app. So here we are. Welcome to your app designer. So we're going to talk a little bit about what everything looks like and what the functionality is. But the very first thing you need to do is give your app a name. So I would recommend making this something intuitive that makes sense. So think about your user group, plan out your model-driven app before you come in here. Do some nice interviews with some of the users, understand what they need, what they don't need, what the noise is, and we're going to minimize all that little dynamics noise that they don't need. So we're going to do inside sales. So I'm simply calling this inside sales. It's generating my unique name, which is just my schema name. And I can add a description. So you can see on the right a little preview of what the app tile looks like. So when people are presented, when they're first logging in and they're presented with an option of the apps to select from, this would be a brief description that shows up under it. So we can add something really simple like this app is streamlined for our inside sales team. So now you have a nice description. I always like labeling and adding descriptions. Any little thing you can do to help your users is great. We see there's a pre-checked box here for use default image. That's these two little rectangles that are kind of joined together. You can uncheck this and select a different image, which I think is pretty cool to do. So you could add in your own web resource and have this customized to whatever you'd like it to be. Or you could, grab one of these things. We'll just grab a GIF here. So here's inside sales. Then we have a couple other options here. You can use an existing solution to create your app. If you've already have a solution file and you want to use that to build your app, that can save you a lot of time. I'm going to start from scratch, so I'm not going to check this. You can also choose a welcome page for the app if you want to build a welcome page. I have actually never done that before. And enable mobile offline. So you can enable mobile offline and then select the offline profile. We're just going to keep it blank here for our uses too. Now, another cool little tip here is it gives you the unified interface URL. So you can take this URL, copy it, and then send it out to your team. So your inside sales team, you could just say, here's your URL to access Dynamics 365. They can add a bookmark on their computer or their tablets or whatever they're using to access Dynamics. And then they will be defaulted into this app. So they won't have to select from the options, which is pretty fun. So we're going to click done. And then that's going to give us our blank canvas where we can start building our model-driven app. Here it is in all of its glory. So we have a couple things here, and we're going to break it down and go through what each of these things means, and we're going to build one. So our very first thing is our sitemap, and you can see it's lit up with errors. Why would that show me an error? Well, the sitemap controls your entire app. If something's not on your sitemap, your users will not be able to access it. So the first thing we want to do is create your sitemap. So I'm going to click the little edit button there. And now we come to this. So what are these things? What's a new area, a new group, a new sub area? Let me just come back to our sales hub because I can show you what all of these are. So down at the bottom here is sales. If I click that, I'm given other areas like sales insight settings, app settings, sales. These are my areas. So if we come back to the app designer, new area. So an area, again, is something that your users will be able to toggle back and forth. So you can click on new area. As with everything in Microsoft Dynamics products, you can do things multiple ways. I can click the little edit button here and type over directly, or I can just click it here in the title and start to give it information. So personal preference, like always. So you can name this, and I'm just going to call it sales. And for my use case, I am using this to increase user adoption for my inside sales team. So I want to streamline access. I want to simplify it. I want to take away all the noise because my Dynamics 365 environment have entities for my customer service team. We're using marketing. We have Dynamics 365 for marketing turned on. So I have a marketing team using that. And then I have the full soup to nuts sales process. We go from leads, we qualify them into opportunities. Opportunities turn into quotes and orders and invoices. So we have the entire system here, and it's just not necessary for my user group. My inside sales team is charged with qualifying leads. They take the cold leads, they warm them up, they get them ready for the outside sales team. Their job ends when they qualify an opportunity. Once they qualify a lead into an opportunity. Once it's flown the lead's nest, it's no longer their priority. They don't care about it. I mean, it's important for people to go through the whole process. But as far as my user group is concerned, they live in leads. They need to get a little bit of information about opportunities for reporting purposes only, but they need leads, they need accounts, they need contacts, and they need activities, and that's it. So we're going to build an app for them. Now we're on to group. Now group is more important. Group are these bolded areas here. So my groups here are my work, customers, sales, collateral, and so on. And then new sub area. A sub area are these individual areas that you can click on. So again, if it's not in your sitemap, your users will not be able to access that area of Dynamics. So I'm going to name new group here. Let's call it my work. Oops. All right. Now the fun starts. Let's go into our sub area, and we're going to start defining our sub areas. So you can see the first thing I have to do is select a type, and then we have a couple of required fields here based on what I select. So what can you select? You can select an individual dashboard. You can do an entity, a web resource, or a URL, which can be way outside of Dynamics 365. So a great use case for URL is maybe you have a SharePoint library that's set up for your custom help. Throw that URL in there. It's a really cool way to incorporate some other materials outside of Dynamics within your Dynamics environment. We're going to do this really simple today, and we're just going to do entities and dashboards. So I select entity, and now you can see entity is a required field. I can start typing in here if I know what I'm looking for, or I can click the arrow to the right and kind of go through. So I want activities. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I also want to add dashboards here. So I can click add here, or I can take a component and just click and drag it over. Like all these interfaces, it's pretty much whatever you want to do here. So let's add a sub area. And I'd add another group while I'm in here. So my sub area that I'm going to select, oh, it's no fun when you get these error reports. I like to send them to Dynamics just so Microsoft can see what's going on, but it's up to you. This time I'm going to select a dashboard. So I have a dashboard that my sales team is going to be needing to use, and you can select that from down here. This will take them to a very specific dashboard when they click on that dashboard button. In fact, you can title it and it can say sales activity dashboard, which is really cool. Now I'm going to click on my new group, and this is going to be sales. So we'll just call it sales. And I'm going to add here. I want to add one for leads, one for accounts, and one for contacts. So you'll get your rhythm of how you like to do this. I like to add all of my areas and sub areas and groups all at once and then go in and configure them. But really, it is entirely how you like to build things. So I'm going to select an account. Next, I'm going to go to my next sub area, and we're going to go to entity here, and we're going to do contact. And click our final sub area here, and we'll make it another entity, and we want leads. Oh, I wrote leads. It's leads. Cool. You know what? I'm actually going to take off this dashboard. We'll do a URL just to show you how that works. CRMID.com. All right. Now you're going to save. And super, super important, the next thing you want to do is publish. We're going to publish our sitemap, and that is going to kind of activate all these different areas of Dynamics 365 in this app that I'm creating. So it'll take a minute depending on your connection speed. This is a demo environment, which also gets queued up last. And it also probably depends on how complex this sitemap is. So I'm going to save and close my sitemap now, and that's going to take me here to my canvas. And now we get to dive into the really exciting things when you're talking about user adoption and model-driven apps. So this has added all of these different entities to my app. So you can see there's all next to everything, and it's broken down by forms, views, charts, and dashboards. So these are our components. So you can see on the right-hand side, our tab is different now. We've got our components, and there's artifacts, which are your entities, your dashboards, and business process flows. And then each entity has its own entity asset umbrella. So that could be a form, a view, a chart, and a dashboard. You might not use multiple forms, you might not use multiple charts, but if you do, you have the ability to streamline what's going to show up there. So it should be simple and familiar to you as a system administrator because it's going to use that drag and drop configuration style that we see in business rules and business process flows. It's been really nice. I really appreciate that Microsoft has done such an awesome job that just lets less technical system administrators like myself accomplish things that previously required JavaScript and custom code. So it's really exciting to me to be able to use this. So let's talk about some of these components that we have available to us. Again, on the right-hand side here. So I'm going to click on Forms, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So Forms is going to define which form is going to display for each entity. So when I am an inside sales rep and I access my app, which is streamlined for me, do I need to see all of these main forms, all of these quick view forms, and this quick create form? No, I don't. As this specific role, let's say I just need one. So I'm going to uncheck all. By default, everything is selected. Here's my default account form, which actually is all I need, but I do want to turn on quick create. So I'm going to check the main account form and quick create. And then at the bottom, yeah, that's all I'm going to do on that. I'm going to save that. I like to save as I go. I think it's just leftover paranoia from losing things when you enter stuff. So again, yay, we've streamlined our forms in our app. So now we only see two. This is the one that I think is exciting because if you're like me, there are a lot of system views in your environment that are simply there to run dashboards and reports. You need a system view in order to generate a chart and put it on a dashboard and filter your data properly. But maybe nobody looks at those outside of the realm of that report. And maybe my user type doesn't even look at that report, it's the management report. So I love coming in here and streamlining the system views. You can always change this later. We're streamlining it. If you get feedback from your users that, oh, I used to use that view a lot and I can't find it anymore, you would simply open up this app and just check the box for that view. So for this, there are a lot of out-of-the-box views on accounts that I don't need. I want my users to only see active accounts and my active accounts. This user group doesn't need to see anything else. So then I can go to charts. And again, if you don't use charts, you can just kind of skip that part. And if you have dashboards on a specific entity, again, if you're using them in that way, you could define them here. Most model-driven apps that I build or that I help other system administrators build, we're just focusing on the forms and the views. And then we look at system dashboards. We'll do that next. But let's continue going through. So activities are going to be a little bit different. So you can see our activities are obviously a different type of an entity. So if I'm going to go to views, there is a ton of them here. So we can uncheck this box. Maybe I only care about my activities and my closed activities and next activity. I only want mine. I don't need to see everybody else's. So I'm going to uncheck those. Then we have advanced find views and associated views. So again, you can add whatever makes sense for your user group. We'll come to contacts, and I'm going to get rid of a lot of these forms. I just want my main contact form and my quick create and my views. I definitely want to streamline my views. So my users here, oh, you have to pick first before you can uncheck it. I did that too quickly. So I only want my active contacts and contacts. And then finally, we're going to come to leads. Again, I'm going to uncheck that all because I don't need all of the forms. I'm going to go with my lead form instead of information and my quick create. And finally, lead views. We're going to streamline the system views here. So I do want to see my open leads and I want to see closed leads because my team likes to go back and see the leads that have been qualified as well as the leads that have been disqualified. So we did it. We defined our entity assets. We streamlined the form views on each of the entities on there, and we streamlined the number of system views on there, which is awesome. Now we're going to go to dashboard. So I'm going to click the purple dashboard box. These are my system dashboards. From here, I can change what is accessed. So by default is all. I'm going to uncheck that. And I want to show you, as soon as I select certain dashboards, you might see the canvas kind of build. So it's going to add different entities that aren't already in my app. If I need to be able to view them, if you want to drill down and show data behind them, you're going to have to go into your sitemap and edit your sitemap and add those entities on here. There's also this really cool validate tool at the top where you can kind of check if you have some dashboards that you've added in that you haven't added to your sitemap. That'll let you know as well. So if I come to like sales management social, see it just popped in opportunities because I didn't have opportunities in my sitemap and I can't show that dashboard without that. So you could come in here. I'm going to save this. And I want to show you validate. So this should light up with some errors here. So here's our warnings. And this is letting us know what's missing. So IoT alert, opportunity case is missing a form or a view. So since I haven't defined it, all of my users are going to see everything. So you can always click that validate button and it's going to tell you if there's anything that doesn't work well for this. So we can keep it like that because those were not big errors. So I am going to publish this because we've added our entity or we've added our entities, we've specified our artifacts, and we have defined our entity assets for everything we needed to. You could come in here, like here's opportunity since that added it on here. Maybe I only want to see closed opportunities. So then I could just streamline that a little bit more too. All right, so we're going to save. Always save your changes before you publish. Publish. We're taking this app. We're making it live. Super exciting stuff. Publishing. After it publishes, there's a button here on the right-hand side that's play. This gives you a chance to test drive it so you can see exactly what your users are going to see. So let's check out our brand new app for the inside sales team. So here we are. Look how simplified this is. Activities. This is my URL to CRM Heidi. Look how awesome that worked. So again, that's any URL. You can just pop into your sitemap and then people can play. We can go to accounts, contacts, and leads, and that's it. So we went from this very complicated app with multiple areas that you could toggle through to a very streamlined view. So now my users can do their job more quickly, more efficiently with less noise. I click on the system views, I've only got 2, whereas when I was over here on accounts, I had more than 2. So I hope this is a good illustration for you of how powerful of a tool a model-driven app is when we're talking about user adoption. There's other things that you can go into as you kind of get more comfortable with model-driven apps. You can do a lot, but I always want to bring it back to our end users. So we have all of these great configuration tools. And you can implement all of these awesome things, but please remember the benefits to your users on this because that's who's driving your system. The people who are using it are the ones generating the reports management's using. So again, beyond simply involving your end users, how does a model-driven app help them? Well, hopefully you can answer this question a little better now than prior to this session. So you can provide them with a customized model-driven app. That way they can have a streamlined way to access their data. I think that's the number one benefit to your users. You can make sure that you're only showing them the information that they need to do their job. So that really comes down to understanding your user group and updating your sitemap accordingly. So like we said, just display areas they use in groupings that make sense to them and how they do their job. And let your users help define what that looks like, what makes sense to them, the order they want to see them in. And finally, you're going to hide all of that noise, all of those entities, all of the data points that they don't need to see in order to do their job. So hopefully you're streamlining the way that they access their data. The ultimate goal with all of this is just increasing user adoption. And I'm a huge fan of model-driven apps. If you've come to any of my speaking sessions, I always introduce myself and tell you what my favorite things are about Dynamics 365. And for the last 2 years, my answer has been model-driven apps. I really love these things. I built them for each individual user group and just let people have something that helps them to do their job quicker, easier, more efficiently. I think they're awesome. And again, you can come back to Power Apps at any point, open up your app designer, and when you learn that, oh, my job has changed, and now I'm responsible for the first stage of opportunities before I get off, well, that's easy to edit. So simply just either drag your new sub area or come in here, click the add button, add your sub area. And as the job description changes, you can certainly do that here as well. So we're adding opportunity, save, publish your sitemap. And now this is changing the app entirely. So I'm going to save and close, and we come back to our canvas. You remember opportunity was already on there because we added a dashboard that had some reference to an opportunity piece of data. But now, if I click play, there's going to be a link to the opportunities here. So it's really simple to let this grow as your organization changes. So again, I hope this was a helpful session. I know this is a lot to cram into 30 minutes. It looks like it was 28 minutes. But hopefully this was helpful to you. And I hope you start to build some model-driven apps. And if you have any questions as you're building them, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at heidi@reenhanced.com. You can tweet me at crmheidi, which is down here at crmheidi. I would love to get in touch with you. Let me know what model-driven apps you're building. Let me know how it helps your users. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you so much for joining 30 Minute Mondays. I hope you have a great week. See you next week. Whee! But you're still here because I forgot to stop recording. All right, next week, I'm not sure what we're talking about yet. So if you have ideas, tweet me. Otherwise, check out my blog, crmheidi.com. I will list it there under the tab for upcoming events. Thanks. Bye.